our sound is now going to be on. Oh, chat's already popped up there. Great. And then
Nice.
I need to do an audio check. Hopefully Harrison or somebody is here to let us know if you guys are
How
or I'm too quiet or anything like that.
I have a question. How were the colors for our nameplates determined? I'm not really thrilled with yellow. I'm not sure anyone would be thrilled with yellow. It's not a great color.
They aesthetically match the tier list colors that I'm using. Although I guess I reversed the tier list colors because I made F red and S green. So
This isn't even kind of like a confident banana yellow. This is kind of a really weak, like pale yellow. This is no one would be happy with this.
Dan, I would be proud that you got sorted into the best color in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did give you those. Are both of you are shades of Seeker, so I don't know.
Look, I'm not gonna derail the whole stream. I'm not gonna complain about this. I'm just asking who made the decision. That's all. It sounds like it was Ben.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And get your volume
down.
That's
all I wanted to know.
I turned you guys both down a little bit. If I need to turn separate, was it just Dan that was loud and Dane was fine?
Aha! Take that, Dan.
Is that correct? Because I can turn Dan down a little bit. Turn Dan down a tiny amount. I'm always worried that somebody's too quiet. So, you guys want to talk quick? Say hello again.
Hello,
friends. It is us.
Dane's too low and I'm too high. Is that what you're saying, Harrison? 5-second stream delay.
Should we start reading the names of random Twitch followers to just as sort of a debug audio?
Oh, turn me up, turn Dane down. All right, me up, Dane, and Dane down a little bit. All right.
Excited because today is the first stream where I'm actually feeling like a truck hit me. In that I got my Moderna shot number 2 yesterday, and it's definitely taken its toll on this day.
Bad timing, Dane. But it's all right. All right. How's the sound now, Harrison? The bars on the OBS are going into like halfway into the yellow, which seems like maybe right. I don't know.
You're like Caesar in that one movie, except in the chat.
All right, Harrison. He says it seems okay. If Dan complains later, I'm gonna put all blame on you. Sounds great. All right. All
right, everybody.
And swap over.
Well, we're here. And it's time to talk about weaknesses. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Miskatonic University Radio Live, a podcast and live stream exploring Fantasy Flight Games' Arkham Horror, the card game. I'm Dane.
I'm Dan.
I'm Ben.
And today, we're going to be taking a look at some weaknesses. Remember that time when you were a small orphan and decided to steal a veteran's fully loaded flamethrower? Well, those are the experiences that we live for here in Arkham.
Oh my god.
At least me.
It sounds like a safety hazard and possibly a crime.
Not for a small child.
Maybe not. And yeah, the title side, did you pick the ones with the coolest art, I guess, or some of them?
I picked the ones that FFG had released in an article that didn't have the watermark on them.
Way less cool, Ben. Come on, man. We could have come up with a really cool story.
That it also did. It did happen to be some of the cooler looking ones, but
I didn't know that Through the Gates was that
very often. So
yeah, I didn't know that Through the Gates was that cool looking.
It does look very
close.
So
yeah, mostly because I just like never had it, and anybody who's ever had it is just like, yeah, okay. But we're gonna get into that.
Yeah. Well, should we step through the gates of this live show and start talking about things?
Yeah. So we're gonna just kind of go through all the weaknesses, and we're gonna try to slap them in a tier list. So I think we're trying to evaluate them roughly on 3 things. We're going to look at like their threat, their impact, and how creative the weaknesses are. In general, the basic weaknesses are like there's something extra. You can't plan for them when you deck build because you draw them after you make your deck. So sometimes you might have to adapt your deck slightly or adapt your play slightly, or maybe not so slightly. More aggressive.
I'm gonna just come out and say that I think the game would be way more fun if you could plan to put certain cards in your deck based on the weakness, and I really think it would make sense to house rule that. But one of the people that I play with is a real stickler about rules, and really would get extremely passive aggressive if we ever tried to do that.
That's not allowed.
Yeah.
I think that'd be totally fine, Dan, if the weakness pool for you was doomed, and that's it.
Well, no, because I mean, for me, like, to the extent that weaknesses are a fun part of the game, what's fun about them is sort of like trying to construct your deck to maybe deal with them, or construct your playstyle to deal with them. So it's a little bit of a bummer that you really can't do that without spending a bunch of XP later.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically you have to spend XP if you want to try to work around it. So. But nah, I can see an argument for like it'd be cool if you knew it ahead of time, so you could plan ahead of time. But I think it's just adds a little bit extra challenge. I don't know.
Well, it's also that a lot of the weaknesses represent sort of ongoing character flaws or parts of your background that your character would know about and probably would have some strategy to cope with. Like thematically, I think it would make sense.
Yeah, I can see it. Tragically, the rules say otherwise, so it's impossible to do anything different. So
one thing we should mention, how are we even constructing this even? Like what constitutes an S tier weakness versus an F tier weakness?
We're keeping it pretty generic. We're saying S tier is stuff that you're happy to draw from the biggest weakness pool. So that might mean ones that are a little bit weaker. Could also mean ones that are like more fun and interesting to like role play. And we'll kind of
it's all relative. It's all relative. You have to have a basic weakness, right? It's like obviously most of these are not things that you are happy to have in your deck, but like given that you have to draw one, there's some that you draw and you say, oh, okay, that's nice. And there's other that you draw and you go, God damn it. And you're just upset, right? So
yeah. So I'm sure there's a couple people who already know that might be low or high, but so we'll just kind of go through them. I don't think we're gonna read every single card because that'll take a million years. So we'll just kind of mention the name and kind of generally what it does. So like first up, I got them alphabetically. So we got 36 weaknesses. So first up is a cursed follower. This is an enemy. It spawns at the location furthest from you, and at the end of every enemy phase, it adds a curse token to the bag. Otherwise, it's a relatively easy 2 health enemy to deal with once you get over to it. This one seems pretty great to get because curse tokens usually not too worried about them. I don't know what is Dan doing?
I'm trying to like make an S with my arms and it's not working at all. But that's what I'm feeling about this weakness. It doesn't do anything. Hooray!
Yeah, basically there's nothing. It might even help decks if you're trying to do a curse deck, because it came out in the Innsmouth. So
it's one of the. I really think this is one of the best ones. In general, I think enemy weaknesses tend to be worse than non-enemy weaknesses because they kind of force you to deal with them a lot of the times. But this one is aloof and it doesn't have Doom on it. So, fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of provide a counterpoint to that, sorry, Ben. It is a cultist, so Arcane Chanting, is it? The one, Mysterious Chanting, the one that is in that cultist set, will put Doom on it if you ignore it for too long. That being said, generally speaking, this almost does nothing. And I remember, like, the first time I saw it, I read it as 2 curses every time it goes into the bag, and I was like, okay, that's kind of annoying. And now it's just 1, because that's actually how it's printed, and it's just, again, another case of me reading it wrong. And it's great.
That is a good point, Dane, about Mysterious Chanting, but that's only in maybe like 1, maybe 2 scenarios per campaign usually. Yeah, so I don't think that really bumps it up too much. I think it would be cool if this had a thing where if there were already 10 curses in the bag, it does something really horrible, like it adds a Doom to the agenda. Because that would make it like at least a little bit scary. But without that, I think this is like a solid S.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Anyone disagree, or if not, we should just rank it.
I got distracted because I thought I saw the stream lag, and I had a heart attack. So hopefully Harrison will let us if there's any issues. Yeah. So we're throwing it an S. Where's my tier?
Let's do it.
Here it is. Throw it an S tier. Great.
Welcome to our decks, Accursed Follower. We love you.
All right. So next up is a classic, Amnesia. You draw it and you discard all but 1 card from your hand. Pretty nasty. I think this was one of the worst weaknesses from core set, I'd say, if not the worst.
From core set, yeah.
Originally, this was definitely the one that you were upset to get, and there were 2 copies of it. There were what, like 8 or 10 weaknesses in the core set, and like 2 of them were amnesia. It sucked.
Yeah.
I think this is a little bit less bad now, maybe just because there's so much powerful draw stuff in the game that you can just cycle your deck and draw more cards. But it's still extremely annoying, just because there's a lot of cards that you hold in hand, like a ward or something for a specific situation, and then this happens and you lose it all. There's a lot of times where you just like having cards in your hand so you can commit them to tests.
Yeah,
I think this is definitely a C or lower, maybe probably an F. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Originally in the original set, I'd say F. I feel like it's a little more C now because I think there's a lot more ways to draw cards now to bounce back from it. Plus, I think doesn't deny existence just cancel this?
I was about to ask that question. I don't know anymore because the rules have changed about 15 times.
I'm
but
pretty sure it does. Yeah, there's nothing that.
At least my perception of the rules have changed at least 15
way.
times.
Yeah.
So,
but I think that is the case. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people can pipe up in chat in the case that we are wrong. But yeah. Also, Ben, where is there no D tier? Because I feel like this is kind of like right there.
We have the capability to add additional tiers partway through if we want to?
I can, in fact, add extra tiers if you need to. It'll ruin my color scheme, but it's fine.
I'm fine putting this either in C or F for now, but I think eventually it might move eventually.
Yeah, I think it's like if we're not doing D tier, it's like low C, high F, right? Like it's still really annoying to deal with.
Yeah. I think you should consider if you're just playing like a non-mark guardian that can't really draw a lot of cards, and you have like vicious blow. You drew your vicious blows early, and you have them in your hand, and then you get an amnesia. Really bad. Absolutely sucks.
Yeah. All right.
Down in the chat, dropping an F plus. I always question like why F plus even exists because you just failed, but you did it like better than everybody else? Question mark.
In tiers, it's like you're squeezing stuff in. You also have S.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. There's 36 cards. That means we'll maybe end up with 7 or 8 in each one, maybe leaning more towards the middle. So,
back when I was teaching, I used to give students an F plus if they did really badly on an exam, but they had excellent handwriting. No, that's not true. I didn't actually do that. That probably would have been really.
What? Come on, man. I mean, I feel like amnesia is at least there for flavor, right? Because it's like it's actually you forgetting who you are, which is kind of forgetting the essence of your deck, which is cool, right?
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh man, Ben, would you like to read the name of this next weakness for us?
Atychophobia? Yeah?
Probably pretty close.
That was close.
Yeah.
So this is, you put it into play, and every time you fail a skill test, you take a horror, 2 actions to get rid of it. This was from the Stella pack, I think. Yeah, this one's not that bad, really. Like, you just kind of get rid of it once you're starting to
unless you're Stella.
Horror. I mean, it's bad specifically for Stella, but there's, how many investigators are there now? 40 or something?
Yeah.
There's like 39 other investigators, and I think most of them...
Even Stella, if you have Peter, you might not care for a couple of turns.
Yeah,
because she has a lot of sanity as well. Yeah, it's sort of
she's
like
got huge stats. That's
the only way this is bad for you is if you are planning on failing a relatively high number of tests and you have pretty low sanity and you don't have a way to soak it or deal with it. That's just I think this is like S or A.
For sure. I think it's high A, low S.
I think it's like A, just because it's not very interesting. The cultist guy is at least a little more interesting, I think.
Wouldn't it be cool if there was like a weakness that like forced you to say it or something, and like if you said it wrong, everybody at the table got to like laugh at you and
weakness, like anytime you mispronounce a word, you take a horror or something. I'd just lose immediately.
Let's make it happen.
Weakness that somehow prevents you from speaking during the setup stage or when the agenda is advancing. That would really derail what Ben likes about this game.
So Chronophobia, it's another classic. So you put it into play, then your turn you take a direct horror, 2 actions to discard Chronophobia. I like this weakness because I get to shout, "We're running out of time!" every time I take a horror.
It is pretty great.
Yeah, I like the flavor of it a lot. I think purely on the merits of how much it affects your deck, this is kind of like average bad, or maybe a little bit worse than average. I think that we also kind of like the flavor of it, so it kind of averages out to maybe like a B or something. What do you guys think?
I think that exactly, yeah.
Towards B, high B or something. But yeah,
Like I mean, I think like just based on what we have so far, you would much rather get this than Amnesia, but you would take either of the other ones over it if you could choose.
yeah,
Yeah.
In just about every deck.
yeah.
It's a little bit investigator specific because if you have this as like Mark or as Roland or somebody who has really low sanity, then you're kind of scared. Because the thing that makes this and then the other kind of I guess duality to it that we're going to talk about a little later is that it's direct horror. Yeah, Midas
Yeah.
pointing out in the chat, it's direct horror, which can be terrifying if you're hovering. If you're Calvin,
Yeah, it does really suck because yeah, if it wasn't direct horror, there would just be a lot more ways to just not care about it.
Yeah,
I would, if you're Agnes, I would say this is maybe like an A because you can you can have a lot of fun with it, but
Yeah.
that's on average it's more like a B.
Yeah, they also have tools to handle it.
It also depends when it comes out. If you get it later in the game when you're already low in horror, then it's scary. But if you get it early on, it's like, just get rid of it. Or maybe I can.
Yeah.
Or late in the game, maybe you have like five sanity left. You know the game's gonna be over in a couple turns. You can just say, okay, I don't even care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. If you got like liquid courage or a way to like heal more than it can deal in one turn, then you're kind of fine for an action or whatever.
Yeah.
So up next, Dark Pact. The campaign mode only weakness. You deal 2 damage to investigate your location. It's an event, so it goes in your hand, so people don't necessarily know you have it. But if the game ends while it's still in your hand, you have to put the Price of Failure into your deck.
What's that, Ben?
I feel like I didn't prepare that. So
I can tell you what it is because I have prior experience.
Great.
It's terrible. When you draw it, you take 2 damage, 2 horror, and put a doom on the agenda, which may cause the agenda to advance. I believe. So
that is very bad.
Yeah.
Adding doom is bad. So, but this is not that bad deal with. You have to spend 2, and you just have to stab someone. That's fine.
One thing that I do like about it is if let's say you're hypothetically you're playing a deck that draws 1 million cards and cycles every couple of turns. These weaknesses that sit in your hand, like they take up a hand slot, but they don't. It's not like every time you draw it something bad happens. You can just hang on to it until the game is almost over, and then you get rid of it.
Yeah. That being said, it takes up a hand slot, which is also kind of the hidden cards are like a little weird with like somebody, especially like Patrice, who like gets their hand clogged up, and it's like you can't really discard it to anything or whatever. But this one specifically,
it's worth mentioning. You can do it to yourself. You can deal 2 damage to yourself, which unless you're somebody like Daisy that has like really low health, often is what you'd like to do with it. Probably just because that way you don't have to like go find someone else and get to their location.
Yeah, Price of Fail is real bad. I mean, this is a scary weakness. I kind of like the theme of it in that like you've made a deal, and if you to do a blood sacrifice or whatever, and if you relinquish or if you fail to complete the deal, then you're severely punished.
And I guess it is annoying because if you're really time constrained at the end of a scenario, you might be very afraid to draw cards because if you draw it right on the last turn where you really need to like make it to the end and resign, I guess that's like the most annoying situation to have it.
Yeah,
I feel like for me, I don't know. This is like maybe a B plus or minus 1 tier.
Yeah, I'd say like low A, high B, maybe, just because it's like it's not terrible to deal with, especially if you're somebody like Tommy who like actually loves this because you can just murder your own leather coat. I guess you get the resources back, but the fact that it also does cost resources makes it a little awkward because there are some things that affect resources in your hand and stuff like that. But like Ben said, I love the art and I love the theme. It's great.
Like Chronophobia is very predictable and steady, like how much it's going to annoy you, and it's better to draw it at the end of the game. This is like, it's almost better to draw it at the beginning so you know where it is, and the ceiling on how bad it is very high. Yeah, I would put it in a B unless we really think we want to bump it up or down.
I'll do low B, below Chronophobia. I'm 80% sure in a tier list further to the right is actually lower, right? Because it just goes into a big line at the end. Should have looked that up ahead of time, I guess. Oh well, next one, Day of Reckoning. It's the end times. So you attach this to the current agenda and you seal the Elder Sign on it. That's it. That's what happens. This was a reward for how well people succeeded at the scenario in Arkham Knights
I
2018?
I thought it was like what more people picked. Like if more people sided with the guy, then something happened, and if more people chose to fight him.
Right.
I think it was like of the 3 resolutions, whatever one most people got. I don't remember which one this correlated with, but it was something with the Egypt scenario. But anyway, sealing the Elder Sign.
Basically fine
for some people, but yeah, most of the time it's probably fine.
Like removing a almost certain success token from the bag is bad, and it's especially bad if the bag is like already bad. Like if the bag is really bad because skulls are terrible and you usually only have like 5 success tokens, removing one of those is really bad. But that doesn't happen that often, and it's when the agenda advances it goes away, so unless you have like a really long agenda.
So like any agenda that's like 6 or whatever, you probably draw us in the middle. It even doesn't take it out for the whole game most likely. So there are a couple of scenarios where like there's one agenda and it's the whole game or whatever. But
At the Gates of Sleep is one that comes to mind, where you've got like Doom threshold of like 19 or something, and it's like,
but
buy Elder Sign, buy forever.
It definitely is bad for like Mateo. It turns off some cards like Seal of the Seventh Sign. Wasn't there was some other weakness or something where like it only goes away when you draw an Elder Sign, and this makes that very, very annoying.
That's Jackie's.
Jackie's weakness.
Yeah, it makes Jackie's.
That's so rough.
But I still feel like this is probably like an A, maybe a B. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
it's not so bad.
I was leaning towards A. The art on it is interesting. Got a lot of different people going.
Getting some 2021 vibes from that.
Yeah. Where do you want to put it? Low A or high A?
Let's do low A.
Right.
Maybe, because sometimes it can be really. I think that the biggest issue that I see is that it affects everybody. Right? It's like one of the rare weaknesses that does indeed affect everybody. If you're in a 4-player team, then it's like nobody gets the Elder Sign. Whereas something like Chronophobia just affects you, and it's kind of up to everybody to manage that.
Yeah, it is true.
I guess we're usually evaluating these probably as most stuff in a multiplayer setting, right? So,
man, we're bad boy in the chat with a hot tech.
I just also feel like the average number of Doom on the agenda is usually like the average Doom threshold on agenda is like 6 maybe.
Yeah.
And on average, you're going to draw this when you're like halfway through the agenda. So on average, it's going to be out for maybe like 3 turns, 4 maybe.
Bad. Yeah, so in chat, the counterplay to this is a crystalline Elder Sign, so you just seal it yourself ahead of time. It's like, haha.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So, Dendromorphosis. Nope. Dendromorphosis. That's close.
Plant hands.
Plant hands. This was a Arkham Knights card. When you draw it, you put it in your plant area, and it takes up both of your hand slots. As a free trigger on it, you can take a direct damage to deal 1 damage directly to it. It has 1 health, so it needs to take a damage to die. Thematically, I like this a lot because your hands turn into plants and you lose all the weapons that you had or whatever you were carrying. And
you can't just pick them up again because why would you be able to do that?
The plant they got consumed by plants. I don't know. So if you're like a guardian or something, this is pretty nasty. Someone that's really dependent on or someone else dependent on their hand slots. But if you're like a mystic or even like rogues or survivors, maybe you aren't using all your hand slots all the time. Not as bad.
I mean, originally, I feel like the first year or 2 of the game, it was mostly guardians that were very hand reliant. But these days, I feel like almost everybody has hand slot items that they care about.
It's true. Yeah.
This is pretty bad. This to me feels like Amnesia in that it's in your deck, it's going to ruin your day when you draw it, and you can sort of try to minimize it by making sure you have like a replacement, but it's still going to like really ruin your day a lot. Like this feels like a C to me, or I could even be talked into it being an F, but probably C is more correct.
I was gonna say lower in the C range, a little bit worse than Amnesia.
I was gonna say like B.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, just because like when I've had this in my deck before, I just kind of like hold on to my assets that are in my hand because I kind of know that I'm going to draw it. Like if I'm Mark, especially, or somebody who can draw it, you just kind of hold on to your other assets and your hand-based assets. That way, like once it comes out, you can deal with it, and it even gives you a health, like Kraken in the chat said, to boot. Like if you've got like a cultist on you, you can be like, great, I can move with this cultist. He'll bop it off of me, and then I can punch him in the face or something like that.
Sure, but you have a flamethrower out with holy weapon or whatever on it, and like then you draw this.
Yeah, it's tough because it's so swingy, right?
I mean,
Like we were saying, like if it's like a mystic who doesn't have a test statue or something like that,
Well, and
then you're just like,
even
hey, my hands are plants. Who
and
cares?
even yeah, well, and even if you have, I'm just saying, I think for most guardians this is a very bad weakness because even if you
Yeah,
have
for
another
sure.
weapon in hand, you have to pay an action and more money to play it again. So if you draw this on upkeep and then 3 people in your group draw enemies on Mythos phase, you're like, well, sorry guys, I'd love to help, but my hands are plants. What am I gonna do? I got to spend an action to play this gun. Yeah, I don't know. It definitely feels like a C to me, if not worse. But what do you think, Ben?
yeah, I'm leaning towards C. So
That's their C.
I'm gonna throw it in low C. So
That's fair. Because like the people who it's really bad for, it's really bad for. But
Yeah.
people, it's kind of like swingy. So yeah,
I think even a seeker, it's going to kill a magnifying glass and stuff. Like a mystic, it's going to kill a mysterious statue or a tome of whatever scroll of secrets. Like I think very few people just have like 0 hand assets or lock picks for rogues. Like very few people just aren't using their hands at all.
yeah. All right, we got there. All
all
right,
right, doomed.
all right.
So campaign mode only. You take a horror, you record in your campaign log that Doom approaches. But if it's already recorded, you instead remove Doom from your deck and put Accursed Fate at the bottom of your deck. And then Accursed Fate, when you draw it, you take 2 horror, you record the hour is nigh in the campaign log, unless it's already there, in which case you put the bell tolls on the bottom of your deck. And of course, the bell tolls is the hour of your demise has arrived and you are killed. Killed meaning your investigator is eliminated from the campaign. Really, really bad weakness. Very scary. One of the few that kind of makes you like actually maybe not want to draw cards. Most of these, it's like still draw cards. You deal with your weakness, but this is very scary.
Ben, I would like to suggest that you create a new tier below F labeled with the poop emoji and put this card there.
This is like Z tier. This is like double Z tier. This is like
if the tier website doesn't let you put emojis in, then call it like F minus minus or something, or like super F. But I feel like there really should be a tier below F for Doomed.
yeah.
One of my like pet opinions is that Doom should basically not be in the regular weakness pool, just because it really just kind of ruins the campaign for you most of the time. Like I think it's a cool design for a card as a thing that you could voluntarily choose for like role playing or something, or if you knew that you wanted it for some reason. But I don't think you should just be able to like make a deck you want to play. Oh, let's see what my random weakness is. Oh, look, it's Doomed. I don't think that should be able to happen.
Yeah, it's tough because like this card is like kind of thematically interesting, but like it's just so like what it does to the game of whoever gets it is just so like incapacitating because it's basically saying like the more scenarios you play, and I love to play side scenarios whenever I can, like new ones and stuff like that. Don't do that. Don't draw cards, which is like the only thing like that you want and need
Just
to do in the game.
The way that you win the game, basically.
Right. Yeah. And like especially bad for really good investigators, which I guess is kind of a cool limiter in that like it's really bad for like Mark or Mandy who'd like just like blow through their decks. But
Yeah,
it's like it punishes you for playing the game, and I don't think that feels good.
And it's basically like, so okay, suppose you're not running a deck that draws a bunch of cards. So even still, you're gonna draw like half of your deck in each scenario just off of upkeep and stuff, right? Unless so even with like the best case scenario, you still have probably like a 1 in 3 shot to just like die in the last scenario because of drawing this. And even in the last scenario, like, oh, okay, well, it's at least I made it that far. But like you still have a pretty good chance to die in like the 6th or 7th scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess its only saving grace is that if you're playing standalone, you don't have to worry about it.
Well, and it's fine in like Dream Eaters because then it's only 4. It's
Sure.
Well, not fine, but it's like less
It's
likely
manageable.
Yeah, and like a shorter campaign, but most campaigns are 8. So definitely very scary. I mean, I think thematically and design wise, it's very cool and creative. But I definitely never want to ever have it in any of my decks. So
I really want to officially recommend to anyone listening to this that it's a co-op game. You can house rule it however you want to make it more fun for yourself. I really recommend taking this out of the weakness pool. No one's gonna criticize you for it. You can just do it.
Dan just wants to live that dream because he knows I'll never allow it. He's playing with me, but
well, see,
other
you know,
people
I
have
mean,
the option. Yeah.
if I ever draw this in a campaign, I will just redraw another weakness, and Ben will be very mad about it. But ultimately, he can't like drive to my house and shoot me. So what, you know, if that ever happens, I guess we'll see what happens.
Dan, don't give him any ideas.
Boy. All right, let's move on. Drawing the sign. You put this in your threat area. Your maximum hand size is reduced by 5. 2 actions to discard. I hate this weakness so much, mostly because I got it like 5 times in a row.
This is like almost the new Amnesia, right? It's kind of like it's comparable in really annoying. Like sometimes it doesn't matter at all because you're like, oh well, I played all my assets. I've only got 2 cards in hand anyway. So as long as I just kind of like maintain that, it's fine. But for some, if you're like a seeker who draws any amount of cards, or if you're like Patrice, oh god.
I think it is.
Patrice, but, go ahead. But yeah, generally, like it's similar to Amnesia because you have to discard down to 3 basically. But then you also need to spend 2 actions to get rid of it, unless you're not drawing cards outside of like upkeep, basically.
I think this doesn't seem that bad when you first look at it. I think once you have it in your deck for a campaign, you kind of learn how incredibly annoying it is. I still think Amnesia is worse than this.
Yeah,
but this is definitely more annoying than it seems. I think this is one of the worst like double click weaknesses.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in C tier. I'll put it right in front of Amnesia.
Yeah, it should also be noted that Doomed went into poop tier, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. I did find a way to add that emoji. So if you're watching this on Twitch or YouTube, you can stare at that for the rest of the podcast.
Stares into your soul.
But all right. So next up is Dread Curse. You add 5 curse tokens to the bag. That's it.
Hey now.
Great.
Great.
Hey now.
This is fine. This was also added in Innsmouth, obviously. I feel like this is S or like high A. It's not super interesting, so I'd lean towards putting it in S, but it's definitely like.
I think it's. I would definitely rather have what's the one in S, the Acolyte or whatever that's a curse.
The cursed follower. Yeah.
I would rather have that than this.
I think so too. Yeah.
The art on this is pretty cool though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's got like a red sun going on. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Eclipse.
Easy.
Oh, it's got a Kafka quote. Very cool.
Does it?
Love it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't even notice that. I've only drawn it once, and it was kind of like in like a test run for a campaign that I was doing, and it was like, who cares? Again, one of the few weaknesses that do affect everybody, but doesn't really do much.
I guess it could be bad if you have a lot of cards in your group that are like Faustian Bargain that need to add curse tokens as like a cost of something. But even then, it's like it's not going to be that bad.
It shuts that down a little bit, but you can get those back out of the bag just by drawing them. So, all right, Haunted, another classic. You put it in your threat area. You get -1 to each of your skills. Double action to get rid of it. Sometimes it's annoying, but most of the time, I think it's fine. I
mean, it usually remember it's the same rules apply as like Dark Horse or Crystalline Elder Sign or something, where it's like -1 or +1 to all of your skills usually means like -1 or +1 to the skill that you use the most, and then maybe like a second one. Like it's more like a -1 than like a 4 times -1.
Yeah, I think it's probably a higher impact on higher difficulties, like hard and expert, where you might be really scraping to get your stats up a little bit more, whatever your main stat is. But most of the time, it's fine. You probably ignore it. Maybe just commit a little more, spend a little more money. So.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't say you can't do something. It just says, okay, in the short term, you need to commit slightly more to pass stuff, or have a slightly lower chance of success. And then when you have time, you just get rid of it. So
yeah, exactly. Like the people who don't like Seekers, for example, who really need to use every action to like get clues, can just scream at their guardian to take care of it for them.
Right.
And then if you're that guardian, we were talking about in last episode, there's just time where you'll have some downtime, so you can just like kind of clear it whenever.
Yeah, that's the important thing with the double action weaknesses. Other people can interact with them on your team to get rid of them.
It's like a good thing for the guardian to do if they don't have stuff to fight and if they don't need to reload. I would put this as like the worst A, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Worst A or top B. Oh, my thing lagged. All right, there we
go. We're definitely going to see another weakness later that is very similar to this, but like a little bit more annoying. So
yeah. So next up is hypochondria. At your threat area, after you take 1 more damage, you take 1 direct horror. Double action to discard.
Extremely bad for Mark.
Yeah.
Pretty fine for most other people, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's comparable to chronophobia. It does direct horror, but it's a little more avoidable because you can maybe be trying to avoid the damage until you need to double action it. But
yeah, like a lot of times you just don't care because like how often do you take damage? Like maybe you draw a treachery every now and then that does it. Maybe you get hit every now and then. But if you're not like Mark or somebody that's sort of, or if you're not in a scenario that is specifically using damage as like a primary mechanic to try to kill you, usually you just don't care.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
think that
the art on it is very visceral though of someone's
Yeah.
skin off their hands.
this game is rated M for mature.
Yeah.
This is some very, very unsightly, very disturbing art. But yeah, I think this one also is kind of like the direct horror matters too. Because if you're like Roland again, like and you take a damage or something like that, direct horror can be kind of scary. But for the most part, just like if you don't take damage, you're going to be fine. I think it's mostly like relevant in pocket cases where like let's say you're in Depths of Yoth and you've only got a certain number of actions and the resign space is like right next to you, but you got an enemy on you, right? Like this might prevent you from being able to leave that turn because you're going to take too much horror or something just by virtue of taking all that damage. But
yeah. But mostly
side, it's like,
for it to really ruin your day, you have to both have like low sanity and take damage frequently, which is basically just Mark and occasionally other decks. But I would put this in either S or A, kind of like whether like one of the better A weaknesses or even like S.
Yeah, I'd say high A probably. Maybe just below Dread Curse.
Sure.
For me, maybe.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay. I don't really care that much about the ranking within a tier as long as it's roughly correct.
Yeah, it's keep it rough. I would put it more in the middle, but it doesn't matter that much. Just,
Yeah.
Indebted. Permanent. Start each game with 2 fewer resources.
Do you guys? Is there a snake in my apartments? I can't. I don't know. I don't see anything.
Yeah, this is.
oh my god.
This was like the original S weakness, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
This is really good. I feel like sometimes it's a little annoying to start with less resources because maybe you have a lot of expensive stuff you want to play, but most of the time it's great because it's not in your deck. You know when it's going to hit you.
Yeah.
And you can just basically always account for it when you're going to deal with it. So high S tier.
It is really annoying, but it's annoying in like a very controllable and predictable and manageable way. And a lot of the characters that hate most, like green characters that want to spend a lot of money and have Leo in their decks, can take another day, another dollar, and basically can't.
Bargain.
Yeah,
Nobody cares.
There's new cards now, like well not new, but like over the course of the game, there's like Stand Together, Faustian Bargain. There's so many cards that just give you money that you can mulligan for.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like the fact that it's a minor inconvenience at the beginning of the game, or sometimes major, if you're like a mystic and you got a lot of stuff to play, is like very outweighed by the fact that your deck only has 1 weakness in it now. Like you're just so happy to just be like, oh, I only have 1 weakness in my deck.
And you cycle your deck 4 times. I mean, who cares? Like you only deal with this once. So yeah, exactly. this is great. This is like the one that you're always very happy to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Internal injury. Putting a threat area. Then you return, take a direct damage, double action to discard. And it features a lady on it who maybe cracked a rib or something. I don't know. Oof. Your mouth's bleeding a little bit. It's probably fine.
Yeah. So this is the mirror to chronophobia, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also B tier. All the same reasons for chronophobia, although I like it a little bit less because I don't get to shout. Don't be like, I'm bleeding. It's less fun.
I mean, a lot of it depends on what kind of characters you're playing, but I feel like this is almost always worse, significantly worse than chronophobia, because in most groups, like someone's always going to have a little bit of horror healing, like someone's going to have a logical reasoning or a liquid courage or something. And I think on average, more characters have like higher sanity than health. Usually, is that wrong? I feel like that's usually mostly right.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can usually afford to take a little bit of extra horror. It's a lot harder to just take a couple of points of damage.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like the primary thing that enemies do too. So if even if you're like Amanda or somebody who has like 7 health, and you're like, oh, I don't care about this. Like pretty soon you're just like, oh, I've taken 4 damage off of this, and it's like
Yeah.
not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also, I feel like more, again, this is like on average, but I think more of the good allies soak horror than damage. I mean, this is direct, but it's still like it, you can use it to mitigate kind of. I don't know. I would honestly either put this like at the top of C or maybe at the bottom of B, but it sounds like Ben was thinking more B.
Yeah, I was leaning towards B. Figured we just put it below Cornucopia and B. And like I agree with your points that it's a little bit harder to heal damage, but I don't know if it's that much worse.
I feel like high C like the drink, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, it's fine. I mean, you could put it in B. It's fine.
I'm gonna throw it in B. I'll put it at the bottom of B, so low B.
Yeah. Bad Boy in chat brought up something earlier too, that smoking pipe and painkillers actually are kind of a way around this. If you're kind of doing a build where it would allow those, if you have like supplies or something like that, or however, those might be a good option in the case that you might have like adaptable or something to help deal with this.
Yeah.
Those do run out of supplies though, right?
They do.
Yeah, but they would help you just enough to counter it if you wanted. Next up is Kleptomania. This is an asset. You put it in your play area. As an action, you take control of an item asset or 2 resources from another investigator at your location. Then you shuffle Kleptomania back into your deck. Force in your turn, take a horror. So if you haven't gotten rid of it, you take a horror every turn. Multiplayer.
I just say, this is my favorite weakness of all time. This card allows such random bullshit to happen. It's so fantastic.
It is really fun.
This is a very fun card. I agree. Yes. Usually, even just having on the board and like threatening to take 2 money from somebody, because just like I usually take it as I'm taking back my magnifying glass. That was my magnifying glass the whole time. That was always my gun. I'm glad to let you borrow it, but I need it back now. That $2 I lent you. Thanks. I'll take that.
Didn't we use this in Read or Die? We had Daisy had this and used it to like borrow everyone else's tomes to get
that's right.
She stole people's tomes.
That was pretty funny. Daisy the book thief embezzled.
It allows for the funniest interactions, all while maintaining flavor.
Yeah, but it also, if you draw it a couple times, it is eventually take an action toll for the most part. Kind of. It's more an action toll on your allies because you're taking stuff from them.
I think purely in terms of how annoying it is to deal with, because you do have to spend an action to get rid of it unless you have Peter or something, and you can just tank the horror forever. I feel like this would be maybe like low A, but if we maybe bump it up just because it's so fun, maybe it ends up being like high A or even S. I don't know.
Yeah, I was leaning towards high A or S just because it's fun and it has weird interactions you could do stuff with.
This gives you so much value. It's almost a worse weakness for your friends, and they're just like, God damn it. And you're like, yes, an action for 2 resources? Hell yeah.
No, but the thing is, you might not need the money. You might not have somebody on your space. You might have a lot of other stuff you want to do this turn where you don't want to spend an action. Like, spending an action is still a tax.
Sure, but I mean, you could just be Agnes or have Peter or both.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's another good Agnes weakness for sure.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say like high A probably.
I threw it in.
I love seeing this card.
It's fine.
All right, Mob Enforcer. This is an enemy. It's a bulkier enemy with higher fight. Prey bear only. Hunter. Spend 4 resources to parlay to discard the Mob Enforcer. Does a damage if he hits you, but
you've only ever gotten this once.
Yeah,
I think I've had it a couple times. I think I mentioned earlier that on average, like the enemy weaknesses tend to be among the worst ones. This one, I mean, 3 health is really annoying. 4 resources is a lot, right? I guess Prey Bearer only means that it basically only chases you, right? Mm-hmm. So like other people can parley with it or kill it or whatever, but it basically, if you're like Finn, you'd probably be happy to just have this and evade it and get money.
Yeah. Or just like if anybody has handcuffs, just handcuff this and it doesn't do anything for the rest of the game, right? Unless handcuffs reads non-weakness, which I don't think is the case.
No, I think it's just humanoids. So you can use, if you have a guardian, you can use that to counter a lot of the humanoid weaknesses. Yeah, I don't think this is too bad. It's annoying because 3 damage is annoying, and getting rid of it with the parlay 4 resources, it's kind of a high cost. But it's just kind of a Like it's pretty. It has a lot of ways you can deal with it. I think so. I would throw it like in the middle.
Wing.
I would throw it in B.
Yeah,
B,
it feels like a B to me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe the area where it would be particularly bad is in solo, where like nobody else can help you deal with it, and you like basically have to dodge it. And a 3 to dodge if you're not like really big into evading is like kind of rough. But other than that, it's like kind of fine.
I think most of these weaknesses are worse in solo because it's a much bigger tempo hit because you're the one who has to deal with it. You don't have the counter or interaction where it's like, oh, the guardian doesn't have something to do this turn, so they'll get rid of that weakness. Or
I think it's also like in solo, you're likely to, instead of just being generally able to fight anything that comes out of the deck, you're likely to have a few cards in your deck like I've got a plan or whatever that are sort of like, these are my cards that I use to fight with a few times per scenario. And suddenly if you have this guy in your deck and it's like, oh, well, now I have like more enemies than I expected.
I do like a lot of these enemy weaknesses, especially the ones that are just regular humans. They're always very funny when you're like in the final scenario campaign fighting, Yogg-Sothoth or whatever in another dimension, and
they're just
the mob's still after you.
Yep, they pop out of like a wormhole somewhere and lost in time and space, and they're like, "Where's my money?"
Yeah,
I love it.
All right, up next, narcolepsy, multiplayer only. Revelation, put it in your threat area. You can't take actions, trigger abilities, or play cards. Action, wake up, discard narcolepsy. If you take any damage or horror, then you also discard it. This one's also very funny. I like this one a lot.
Did I say kleptomania was my favorite?
This is one of the funniest ones. This one creates great emergent narrative gameplay experiences.
Oh, it's so good. It's so great. Oh man, we were joking about it when it came out, like as like something that basically like Norman and Gloria like must take in their deck. Like they can drop a random weakness, or they can just take narcolepsy because they're old.
just fall asleep randomly.
Yes.
Anybody can be subject to wanting to take random naps, But this is very funny. I like this a lot. I feel like this is it's also like not that bad to deal with. It's usually just a very funny weakness. I think most of the time you could deal with it unless you wandered off on your own. But I
feel like it ends up being a little bit more annoying than it seems, just because someone does have to be on your space and they have to spend an action. And like if your fighter has this, someone else draws an enemy and they have to do this, but they're gonna get AOO'd. Like I think in terms of I think like in terms of how annoying this is to deal with, it's probably like a good B, but you have to bump it up to like a low A just because it's so fun, maybe.
I was thinking yes because I love it so much. Like low S, high A, because it's just like it's one of the most sound, like narrative, creative weaknesses that's ever come out.
You could talk me into this being like a high A, like better than Dread Curse or something because it's fun. It'd be hard to convince me that this is an S. What do you think, Ben?
I was leaning towards S, but I think you convinced me with
I mean, if you guys
mathematical logical pitch, so I could do high A.
Okay, I mean,
I do like.
Let's see where we get at the end, and if we only have a couple S's and like a million A's, we could promote it.
Yeah, I'll put it at the top for now. We're leaning towards A right now. So, nihilism, put in your threat area after you reveal. Cancel or ignore a auto fail, take a damage and a horror, double action, discard nihilism. This came out in the Jacqueline pack, and it's definitely annoying for Jacqueline.
And or Wendy.
Okay, yeah, Wendy, but I feel like most people don't do too much. Like most decks aren't going to be focused around canceling auto fails, and you don't reveal it that often.
You usually see it like a couple times a game. I mean, yeah, more if you're using like Jacqueline or sort of things that let you reveal multiple tokens. More if you're, because even if you reveal it as part of like playing Recharge or like Jim's Weakness or something, I think it still counts. So anything that makes you sort of draw more tokens than like one per test makes it a little bit more annoying. But even then, like at worst, it's a thing that you double click to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never honestly had it before, nor I don't think I've ever seen anybody in any playgroup that I've been in have it. So I'd be curious if anybody in chat has like had it, like their experience with it. But I don't think it would be like
Yeah, there's a
bad at
chance that
all.
like one of the ones that's sneakily worse than it looks, but I don't think so because I've never had it either. But I feel like I would be quite happy to draw this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've only played it with Jacqueline because I played it and I just played those decks out of the box at one point. So
I
it
also
was
think
annoying
that
her, but
anything that stays on in your threat area and you can mostly ignore most of the time, I just because I usually play like Seekers that draw a million cards, those like Haunted and stuff, those are just automatically better than something like Mob Enforcer where like somebody kills it and then you draw it again a turn later. You know, like this is like it if you cycle your deck, you're not gonna draw it a million times, you just leave it out and you probably don't draw that many tentacles.
Yeah.
I'll throw it in high B, I think.
Really? See, I would put this like I feel like I would
Yeah.
rather would you rather have this or Haunted?
Or like chronophobia even, you know, like
Well,
I mean, I would totally rather have this than Haunted or the Egypt one.
yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
probably rather have it than uh
Like
yeah,
hypochondria.
throw in low A.
it feels like hypochondria-ish to me in that
Yeah.
range.
That's fair, I think.
All right, I'll throw it in A. That's fine.
It's really like
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I've had a campaign where like our fighter drew like 7 auto fails every game, and it would have just killed him there. But like, really, like, what even is variance, right? Like,
Yeah, it's very, very low chance that it will just kill you out of nowhere, but like,
yeah,
you know, probably not.
I mean, you must remember that like you can wait to deal with it, so you actually need to worry about dying to the damage to horror, right?
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You could easily have a game where you don't take that much and it doesn't matter. So the art on it though is definitely very grim. This is definitely a
Yeah,
mature
trigger warning.
Very
so,
purple.
Yeah. It's also purple, Dan. Thanks.
We should have put all the rated M for mature ones in tier M as like a separate tier.
All right. Obsessive. Put obsessive into your threat area. When your turn begins, discard one non-weakness card at random from your hand. Double action. Discard.
Dane, you had this recently. What is your opinion on obsessive?
But it's not like terrible. I think like sometimes if I have like key assets in hand or something like that, or if I literally just have a cryptic or something like that in hand, then I'm like, please somebody clear this for me because I really want to not like have no cards, especially in somebody like Min who this is like one of the worst in. But like
Dane, the reason I see. You go ahead, Ben. I think we're going to say the same thing.
Yeah, the reaction I see to anyone that has this, including Dane, is
Especially
somebody get rid of somebody get rid of this immediately. I need it to go away. One of my 8 cards is critical. I can't risk it.
It's Dane like jumping up on a desk, like holding a gun and waving it around there, like someone come over here and get rid of this obsessive out of my threat area right now. Like that's usually how it felt playing with Dane when he had this card.
So yeah, it's basically poop chair.
I think this is like uniquely designed to be incredibly annoying if you have it, because if you have like one card in your hand that you're trying to hold on to, like a ward or something, it could always be that card every turn, right? Yeah. And you're going to keep thinking it could be, and you're just really, really going to want to get rid of it. And it's probably not actually, it's not a terrible weakness, but just the psychological toll of like having to shuffle and then maybe lose your favorite card every turn. I feel like you're going to hate having this in your deck.
Which is what happens.
I was gonna put it into C just for that reason. I mean, it's effectively the same functionally as like draw the sign amnesia. It can actually be better if someone gets rid of it for you, but
oh yeah, I think I'd probably rather have this than drawing the sign, but I think it definitely does belong in C tier.
Yeah, I'll put it at the top.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like the other thing that's nice about it, Batboy kind of brought it up in chat, is that it triggers at the beginning of your turn. So contrary to his point, if you draw it on upkeep, it's like as long as you go last or somebody like just can take care of it before your turn, it actually doesn't do anything, right? So
yeah. Still though, it definitely annoys other teammates a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. Offer you cannot refuse. Campaign mode only. When you become the bearer of this weakness, gain 2 experience. Revelation, lose 5 resources. If you cannot, instead remove offer you cannot refuse from your deck and search the collection for fine print. And fine print.
This is such a weird one.
Yeah, fine print is reveal, lose 7 resources. If you cannot, instead remove fine print from your deck and put sell your soul into your discard pile. And sell your soul, I think, is lose 10 resources. If you cannot, the dark patron tears your consciousness from your body and you're driven insane.
Ooh.
So this is like Doomed.
Yeah.
In that it can destroy you, and it actually goes faster than Doomed because it only has to trigger 3 times. But if you have in your deck, you can kind of keep just make sure you have resources, right?
I couldn't hear any of that, Ben, over the sound of me having 2 extra experience to spend. This.
Am I doing it the wrong way? Is it a little bit more like this? I don't know. I think this is an F, right?
Really?
I think
was going to say just exhibit proper Netrunner philosophy where 5 is your 0 and you'll be good to go, man. You just get 2 experience and you don't never have to worry about anything ever again.
No, but you do though, because so the thing is, even if you always have the 5, losing 5 money sucks. Like maybe you're rich enough that you don't care, but probably losing 5 is very, very annoying. And that's the best. That's like the goal when you have this is to always have 5 spare money that you never use so that you can lose 5 money instead of something even worse happening to you. And then if you screw up once because you like really need to play and I've got a plan to kill something and you're like, okay, I dropped down to 3 money. And then you draw this, then the rest of the campaign is even worse because now you have to keep 7 money in hand that you can't use. Like you could talk me into this being a C, but I think this is just so annoying to deal with and it can kill you. And it's going to make you poor for like the whole game. I think this feels like F to me.
Yeah, I think I'm
I was going to say it's S tier for me until Ben allows me to put it in my deck as my weakness because I've never had it as my weakness.
No, I think you guys are right. I think it is F tier. There is some counterplay, so I think it's not as bad as Doomed, but
I mean, it doesn't belong in the turd zone. Like the turd zone is like should be removed from the pool. This is like I'm fine having this in the pool. It's just it is one of the ones you really don't want to get.
This is Doom done right, I think. This is like scary as all hell, but like doesn't make you wanna. It doesn't punish you for playing the game.
Yeah, you know? like you can counteract it by putting in more money cards, and it doesn't actually cost an action to get rid of, which is nice. So, yeah,
and
it gives you experience. If Doom gave you like 5 experience, it would still be in the turd zone, but at least we would like talk about it, you know.
Yeah, that's fair.
So Overzealous is next.
God.
Revelation, draw the top card of the counter deck. That card gains Surge.
This generally reads draw Ancient Evils, and then that a copy of Ancient Evils surges into another Ancient Evils.
This just sucks so completely bad to have like Mandy or Amanda or anybody.
I mean, it's bad for everyone.
Speaking of turd zone, cracking
but if you're drawing like if you're cycling your deck like 5 times, if you're just drawing 10 extra encounter cards over the course of the game, like this sucks so bad.
This is F like minus tier. This is probably like the worst weakness that you can draw.
It's definitely F tier.
2012 Netrunner World Champion Jeremy Zorn approved. Remember when he was feeding us weaknesses in whatever it was called, the Keeper's Nightmare. Whenever he didn't have like a more hilarious specific one, like giving Dane 1 million copies of the Tower, his like go-to awful weakness to give people was Overzealous because it's one of the worst ones. It's really bad.
So bad.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's worse than Offer You Can't Refuse. I think.
I think it depends
I'd say so.
on. I don't know. I don't care. It's about there.
But the same.
Overzealous can do like anything, and all of it is bad.
But still not. It's still not quite as bad as Doomed. I mean, Jeremy might have given us Doomed if he could force us to cycle our deck every turn as well or something. But
I think Overzealous is worse if you're drawing 1 million cards. Offer You Can't Refuse is worse if you like need money or don't have enough money or something. I think it could be either way.
Yeah, but definitely F tier. Definitely very scary.
Yeah.
So up next is Paranoia. Discard all your resources. Another classic.
Really depends.
Much better to have than Offer You Can't Refuse.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like Offer You Can't Refuse is like a much worse Paranoia.
Yeah, and if you draw it on upkeep, it's like you lose all your resources, then you gain your one. So it's like
yeah. And with this, like you can just like freely spend money, and then maybe you only have like 1 or 0 when you draw this.
I mean, all this means is don't hoard money. So you're basically sad if you're playing like a big money deck, like one of the rogues. But everyone else, it's like
yeah,
it's fine.
Or if you're relying a lot on talents, like Scrapper or Streetwise or something.
Does this? Just a question. Does this force Preston to lose all the money from his like trust fund or whatever? I forget how that works.
No, his trust fund's not actually part of his resources, but that would only really
Oh my
apply
God.
if because he loses his trust fund at the end of his turn if he hasn't transferred it over. So that this would only kind of affect it if you draw it during his turn. So I don't know. I was thinking like B tier maybe. It's not super interesting. It's not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
like
seems fair. Low B.
like a bad B seems fine.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
seems reasonable.
All right. Psychosis. Add to threat area. After you take a damage or horror, take 1 direct damage. Double action to discard.
Analog to hypochondria, right?
So
Yeah.
So if we follow the same logic as we did with no, I forgot the words. Chronophobia and internal injury, then this is a bit worse than hypochondria.
Just like hypochondria is terrible for Mark, this is very terrible for Agnes.
Yeah.
Indeed, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's like Ben said, this is the twin of hypochondria, but I think this is definitely way worse than hypochondria.
Yeah. So we put hypochondria.
Yeah, direct damage is scary.
Hypochondria said was like middle A. Chronophobia we have at the top of B. Is this between those two? Maybe high B?
I would
say so. Yeah, I'd say like high B.
Yeah, I'd put this in B.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably rather have this than Chronophobia, but only just barely.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
All right. Reckless. This is a skill weakness. You commit it to a skill test you're performing of any type that has no other cards committed to it. You cannot commit other cards to the skill test. If the test fails, you return it to your hand. Forced, if it is in your hand at the end of your turn, reveal it and lose 2 resources.
I always forget that this is not Winnie's signature weakness.
I know, because it has her like right there. This is one of the easiest weaknesses to deal with ever. This card is like, so easy to deal with. Like, you just do anything that you want to do really easily because you've got like static boost. It doesn't count for like anything that you're pumping money into. Like if you got a talent or something like Streetwise or something like that, it doesn't care about those at all. The only thing it cares about is you committing cards to skill tests.
Well, but isn't that the main way that you try to pass something that isn't your sort of main? Like if you're a seeker, you're going to try to pass investigate tests without committing stuff usually, hopefully, but everything else you kind of expect you're going to commit. Like if you're a fighter, but you hope that you can pass fight tests without committing stuff, but just about everything else you probably have to commit something.
But you're not forced to commit this to every test. You choose when you're going to commit it, so you choose a test that is easier for you to deal with.
It makes you lose resources.
It's definitely bad in like skill focused decks like Winnie. You're probably relying more on your skills for those.
Yes,
but
I mean, I think baseline it's better than paranoia to have, right?
Oh, I think it's like I would rather have this than like hypochondria up there with klepto maybe. Like this is just like so easy to deal with most times.
If you say so, I just imagine having this and having to like waste an action to investigate where there's no clues or something just to get rid of it. Or even just being a combat person and having nothing to fight, and it's like, well, that's the only kind of test that I'm really good at passing.
Yeah,
I've done an entire campaign with Tony with this in the deck, and I've literally the bottom half has never triggered once, and whenever I get it in my hand, it's like, oh great, okay, well there it goes.
Yeah,
it's so easy.
I was gonna throw it in B because I think it's mostly easy to deal with. There are scenarios where it's kind of annoying, and it will be annoying in like skill focused decks.
Yeah, that seems fine to me. Like roughly in the kind of like dark pact internal injury zone. That seems reasonable.
Yeah,
I would way rather have this than like chronophobia or psychosis. Like I would. This is so easy to deal with.
I guess I'm fine if this is anywhere in B. It seems fine.
I'll put it in high B for you, Dane. Does that sound good? All right. Self-centered. Multiplayer only. Put it in your threat area. You cannot commit cards to other investigators' skill tests or affect other investigators with player card effects, except aspects that cause damage or horror. Double action, discard. The art is great because it has a lady like some guy trying to help a lady climb over a fence, but she's definitely like putting her foot in his face or his hand. So, yeah. This one's usually fine, unless again you're playing a skill focused deck and you want to commit to other people.
You're like Nin or somebody. You're like,
It
damn
shuts
it.
down some other cards too, like dodge, or does it shut down
Bad.
dodge?
It's bad for Carolyn.
Yeah.
Can you ward other people's non-peril treacheries? I think not, right?
I think you can because you're targeting the card and not the player, so you're targeting
Mhm.
the treachery. I don't quite remember.
I mean, I think it's definitely annoying sometimes, but the ceiling on how bad it can be is pretty low, and it's not that. It's just a double click weakness to get rid of. Like this is probably one of the better double click ones to have.
Yeah. If you're like any seeker who just has their face down and clues the whole game and isn't going to commit stuff to other people anyway because like they need them all to like get clues as efficiently as possible, you just don't care about this at all. You're like, if somebody wants to get rid of it so that they can get maybe some cards from me, maybe
It
go for
yeah,
it, but I'm not going
it
to deal with it.
it feels like somewhere in the like haunted Day of Reckoning zone to
Yeah, I'd
me
say so
a little
too.
bit.
Yeah, I'll throw it in there. Low A. Um, Seems fine. Self-destructive. Put in threat area. When you deal one damage or more, or excuse me, when you deal one or more damage to an enemy, take a damage, double action discard. I think you only care about this if you're a team's fighter or hybrid, maybe.
It's just such a it's so binary. It's like either it's extremely bad for you or it's you can completely ignore it.
Very similar to Dendromorphosis, I think.
Even more
In
so
that way.
because like I said, like Dendromorphosis, probably you have at least one hand asset in your deck, right? But this is like if you're a pure seeker, you just do not care about this at all.
Whatsoever.
And even if you're gonna even if you're gonna fight things a couple times like a solo deck, if you're playing like a I don't know, like a Finn solo deck, like you're gonna kill a few enemies. But if you draw this halfway through the campaign, like you might only have to kill two more guys after this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think this one's pretty fine. I don't think it's anywhere close to Dendrophobia.
Yeah, I'd say it's like B maybe, like high B, low A.
Say high B
Oh,
or low A.
I think this
Maybe
is I think
B.
definitely an A. I could even be talked into putting it in S, but I think A.
No. Because like the people who it's bad for, it's really bad for. Like if you're Mark, you just hate seeing this because like you're gonna take a damage to like pump your skill. You're gonna hit that enemy. You're gonna get another damage, and like part of playing Mark, even though he's like ridiculously busted, is like managing your health, and this just throws all that math off.
But if I'm Mark, I would probably still rather have this than Dendrophobia by a lot. And if I'm
Oh yeah,
anyone
yeah,
else, I
definitely.
would much rather have this than Dendrophobia. Even if I was Mark, I would rather have this than Hypochondria.
Yeah, yeah, sure, that's fair.
All right, I'll throw it in.
I
I'll throw it at high A. We can put it right in front of Hypochondria.
Yeah,
Okay, sure.
I just want it somewhere in A. It doesn't have to be at the top or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Silver Twilight Acolyte. Prey bearer only. Hunter. When it attacks, you place one Doom on the current agenda. It's a 2/3/3 enemy, does 1 damage.
This is one of the scarier
yeah.
enemies
This
I
is
think that follows you.
this is pretty bad. I think this was
Yeah.
like in the core set. This is probably the worst one apart from Amnesia.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
scary. 'Cause
yeah.
depending when you draw, especially if you draw it like during your turn and not during upkeep, then it means you have to immediately deal with it.
Yeah, it could like AOO you, and it doesn't just get added Doom to itself. It puts it on the agenda, which is
Right.
extremely hard to deal with.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Kraken in the chat mentioning interactions in Circle Undone. Definitely, there's an interaction when you go to the mansion, the second scenario, when all the spooky ghosts start hunting all the Silver Twilight people, all the Silver Twilight enemies. They just killed this guy for you, and it's so funny.
Yeah,
it also
it's a cultist and humanoid, but yeah.
it also has 3 health, so it's sometimes you're not going to be able to kill it in one hit, depending on what your deck is like. I mean, bare minimum, I would probably rather have Mob Enforcer than this. I think it's worse than Mob Enforcer.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, I think this is a C tier. I don't think it's F tier. I think not. I think it's.
I think C.
Somewhere.
I think it's
low
like
C. Yeah.
yeah.
It can be very, very bad if you're like drawing this on last click as a seeker or something like that, and nobody else has any actions left, and you're like, oh no.
I'd
But, like-
I'd probably rather have it than Amnesia. Like it could really ruin your day, but on average, it's not going to do as much. But it's somewhere in C. I don't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Stubborn Detective. Another enemy. 3/2/2. Prey bearer only. A hunter. While he's at your location, treat your investigator as if his or her printed text box were blank, except for traits. Does 1 damage. This one is pretty nasty because it.
Lolo's best friend.
Yes, I was about to say S tier for Lola, baby.
S tier for Lola, but it affects all investigators at your location, right? Because it's just, well, if other people are there, it turns off their abilities too. And that can be pretty bad for some investigators.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
What
While it's at your
Oh
location.
my god.
If this is at Amanda's location, you still have a card under you. Suppose you draw it during upkeep. You don't just do you discard the card as soon as this comes out because there's no reason for it to be under you anymore?
Oh no.
I think no. I think it just stays there, but I'm not sure.
I'm just curious. I don't think it really affects how we're
the
going to
text box. It would have no effect on attachments. If that was the case, that means like for people that tuck stuff like Diana and Safina, it would also throw out their stuff, which I think it does not do. But
This is so funny for Calvin.
I was trying to think whether there's a way to use this to hack and get like 2 cards under Amanda at the same time, but I don't think that's possible.
No, I don't think that works. But yeah, this is pretty. It's easy to kill though. It's only 2 health. It's also easy to evade.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
So, but it is definitely annoying. Like you want to get rid of it. You don't want to have it sit around. Unless
I
you
think
have an
this
investigator
is
that you don't care about the ability, but that's like half the reason you play investigator, right? So
I think I would rather have this than Mob Enforcer. Is that right?
yeah, yeah. I was thinking B tier.
It's easier to evade though, and deal with just because he's got 2 health.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely
He thinks it's easier to deal with than Mob Enforcer.
I think this is maybe like a good B or like a low A, even maybe probably like a, I don't know, somewhere in there.
Maybe, yeah, maybe B.
I'll throw it top of B. It's fine.
Yeah.
This is again another funny one where when you're fighting Yig in the different dimension at the end of time, or whatever.
It'll definitely be annoying
Thanks!
if you're.
Yeah.
It'll definitely be annoying if you're like Mandy and you draw this a million times. Oh, suppose you're using Mr. Rook. You're going to resolve 2 targets of your search. The first, but then you find this with Mr. Rook and you have to draw it. Do you still get to use? And never mind. Let's follow up on this later.
And Dan, stop.
I think you've already applied Mandy's ability. I think because you do it before you start the search. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, we got the 13th vision.
The Ben weakness.
Yeah, you put it into play your threat area. Investigators your rotation fail ties during skill tests. Double action to discard. Yes,
similar to Haunted, right?
It was designed at Arcanine Seals and String. Yeah, it is very similar to Haunted. It's definitely a worse version of Haunted.
Yeah. Yeah, you could thank Ben for this weakness.
I think it would be cool to have. I think it would be cool to have this versus Haunted be like the boundary between B and A, kind of. So I would put this as like the best B, maybe.
B.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems fine. I don't know.
Because it is like, I mean, this affects everybody at your location, which is annoying.
And
it happens a surprising amount,
Haunted, right? Like,
yeah,
there's no case where it's better.
I feel like it happens a surprising amount of the time that like I'll hit. You always go for like a -2 kind of a.
You don't always account for it as much because you have to change your math. I don't know.
This is it's better than Haunted if you're trying to succeed by a lot. Like if you're using guiding stones or if you're trying to trigger cigarette case.
Yeah, that's true. But most of the time, it's worse. I don't know. I recall when we designed it, we thought it would be sneaky because you would think like you don't think as much about the ties. But so the
very elegant. Cool. Yeah, very very cool art, very cool flavor. I think it's kind of a interesting, very unique sort of tax and /failure.
Yeah. So next up is the thing that follows. 3/2/3 spawns the location farthest from you, hunts the bearer. When it would be defeated, instead is shuffled into its bearer's deck. I had this recently in my playthrough as Amanda, who really wants to cycle her deck 3 to 8 times a game. So it led to some interesting interactions where it was repeatedly had to be killed on the smaller maps and came back out like a turn or 2 later every time. But it gave my fighter something to do like every turn. So,
Harrison in the chat is saying that this purely on theme should get an S, and that's kind of right. I mean, so this is based on It Follows, right?
Yes, I love.
I mean, I'm fine. I'm fine with them designing a single weakness based on It Follows, but I want an entire campaign based on Under the Silver Lake. That's my request to FFG for 2022.
Yeah,
No, for real though, a campaign set in like LA in the early 30s actually would be pretty great. This is really annoying if you draw a lot of cards.
Yeah, for sure,
right?
For sure.
On smaller maps, on bigger maps, you can often ignore it for like 5 turns or whatever, and maybe even cut it around on some circular maps and stuff.
That is
I'm
true.
gonna like come up with a document that's basically like reasons to play Yorick, and like this is definitely one of those reasons because burying deep this thing must feel
really good.
so good.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if you had a Yorick with you, Amanda, and then he just like got rid of this forever?
Wait,
That would
did
be
he
great.
work on this?
That would be really
I always
cool.
forget because of the timing of when it would be defeated versus when can you play Bury Them Deep. Does that work? I don't remember.
I think so. This one reminds me of Obsessive a little bit in that it's just going to be so annoying. Like you're going to hate having it, even if in absolute terms it's not that terrible for you.
Yeah.
Like I could see the argument that it should be in B somewhere because it's easier to kill than like Mob Enforcer or the Stubborn Detective, but I kind of want to put it at like the top of C, just sort of like Obsessive. It's so annoying.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I would put it in C. Yeah, I'm not
really
sure.
Annoying to deal with.
This triggers before you can play Bury Them Deep, so I'm not sure you can bury it.
Oh no!
You can't even handcuff it either. It's really annoying.
Just got demoted.
Fuck. Damn it.
But yeah, so that's a C. So what do we got next? I think we're almost done. We got a couple more, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The tower. This is a asset weakness, cost 4. You cannot commit cards to the skill tests while the tower is in your hand. If the tower is drawn in your opening hand during setup, you cannot replace it. Unlike other weaknesses, it has to stay in your opening hand. It takes up the tarot slot. So most of the time, this is like fine.
Really?
It's not. This
sucks. This is really bad.
Trauma, Ben.
Think about how often you commit stuff, like just a card here or there, like an extra card to give you a little bit more chance.
The counterplay, it's cost 4 resources an action to get rid of it,
and it overwrites your other tarot card if you have one.
Yeah,
and 4 resources is a lot.
If you get this, you just don't get a tarot card. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure, but then
I guess that's a little bit more than the regular 2 action cost.
Yeah, like if this was double click to get rid of it, that would be better.
I mean, I know Dane's traumatized by it because when we played the Keeper's Nightmare, Jeremy kept giving them to him in his mid deck, so he could just never get rid of the key in yellow, which was very funny.
This was horrible. That said, I have it in a I'm doing a Dark Matter campaign with Harrison. And I'm playing Yorick, who is like Bless Yorick, and he gets to like recycle that one Bless card that lets you discount things by 2. And because he's Yorick, he can just keep pulling that into play every time he kills something. So I just get like infinite discounts. And this, like, whenever I get it, it's just like great. It only costs 2, and I don't care about it at all. You just don't put a tarot in your deck.
It is. I mean, I think it's funny that it kind of almost works like a regular tarot card. Like, notice it doesn't have the thing normal tarot cards have, where if you have it in your opening hand, it goes into play. Yeah, it has kind of like the evil version of that, where like you can't mulligan it, but you don't get to play it for free.
Yeah, design-wise, I think it really works as like a negative tarot card or whatever. That's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, given that I feel like more than half decks are going to try to get tarot cards because they are pretty good, and this is just. Like, I don't know. I think this is like a C, probably.
Yeah, I'd say low C. This card's really annoying. Full resources is so much.
And it's so bad for like Amanda and Min, right? It's like absolutely ruins their day completely.
Yeah. Well, that being said though, this is one of those rare cards that once you just like get it out on the board, you just don't have to deal with it because it doesn't go in your discard pile again, right? Like, so for Amanda, like if you keep drawing through your deck, as long as you just play this, and you don't care about tarots, like
you're just
that's
never
a good
have point.
To
but
care about
again,
it.
Amanda and Min normally would love to play Death 13, and they can't if they get this.
I can't remember the last time I played a tarot.
Really? Yeah. Oh man, you should. It's a good card. I don't know. Yeah. Are we all happy with C on this one?
Yeah, C seems fine.
I think so.
Mid to low C. All right, through the gates. Draw a top card in your deck. If it is not a weakness, remove that card from the game. Then search your deck, discard pile, hand, and all players for each other copy of that card that you own, and remove it from the game as well. So most of the time, this weakness is like fine, but sometimes it ruins your day.
It's
Are
so
we on Dunwich?
I feel like if we wanted this
Return to
episode to be
Dunwich.
if we wanted this
Okay.
episode to be like 3 hours, we could have defined a couple of like categories that some of these fit into. Like this would fit into the category of things that are really bad if you cycle your deck a lot, and things that are more annoying. They psychologically they're worse than they actually are, but that does matter for this. Like this feels sort of like an obsessive like to me, where you just hate having it.
Yeah.
It's more like the fear that it could destroy you. Rather than most of the time, it's probably not. But I mean, once during a campaign, it might like trash a critical ally or trash a critical asset.
Well, again, it matters. It matters how many times you cycle your deck. If you cycle 5 times, this is absolutely terrible. This sucks.
That's true.
It's so high variance though, because sometimes it's just like it removes your magnifying glass, and you're like, okay, well, it's not terrible. Or sometimes it removes your like emergency cache or like a Faustian bargain. While that kind of sucks in its own right, it's not like game breakingly horrible. Like if you're like Preston and it removes like Leo to Luca, then you're like,
like most of the time
resign.
It's gonna hit something that doesn't cripple you, but occasionally it will.
Yeah.
So that is, and there's 8 scenarios in a campaign. So I feel
Yeah.
like this is definitely C tier. It's not F tier, but
There's way you can play around it too, right? Because if
Sure.
this is worse for the cards that have like multiple copies, Myriad, for example, like if you're trying to get the Pendant of the Queen or something, don't do that in this deck. But if you're like,
Yeah, I mean, if you have this and you really want to be fine with it, just adaptable all of your stuff until you have all singletons. Play like commander mode, and then then this weakness doesn't really do
and
anything.
then you laugh it through the gates.
That is an interesting counterplay. I guess Dexter doesn't play about it as much too, because he plays a lot of singletons. So.
Well, because it does. This makes you like if you're playing a mystic, this makes you want to play like instead of 2 rites of seeking, you play like a clairvoyance or rite of seeking.
Yeah.
If you're playing like, it makes you want to play like different named cards that do roughly the same thing, which is kind of interesting. But this is still a C.
Yeah. All right. So the next 3 cards are very similar. So we got the Unspeakable Oaths. The first one's Bloodthirst. It's a peril and a hidden, campaign only. You secretly add it to your hand. It's the case for all of them. For this one, and if the game ends or you're eliminated and this card's in your hand, you earn 2 experience. The difference between these 3, for Bloodlust, it is when you deal damage to an enemy in excess of their remaining health, you can discard this from your hand. So you have to overkill an enemy to get rid of this.
These cards are like really, really investigator dependent, right?
Yeah.
Because like if your main goal is to murder things, like if you're Zoe or somebody like that, this is just going to happen, and you're just going to be able to deal with it.
You don't care.
You don't actually care.
I think
but
if you're not a main fighter, especially if you're like a clue focused person, this kind of makes it so you need to put some kind of damage card in your deck that does 2 damage.
Exactly. Yeah.
At least.
Harrison has the evade one in Roland in Arid's campaign. It's so annoying.
I mean, he's just accepted it, which I think is so funny. It's just like, I'm Roland, what can I say?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that one in a minute, but because that's probably the worst of the 3, I think. But so for this one, I feel like this one's not that bad because the counterplay is you just throw some attack card in your deck and you'll probably be able to draw it.
I also think that some of these so suppose you have a weakness that has a small chance to just kill you. That's really if it actually kills you, you take a trauma, you're more likely that your whole group loses the scenario. That's really bad. With this, the worst that can happen is you lose 2 XP, which is definitely annoying. But I think like if that happens really like bad, no, but I'm saying like if this triggers once or twice in a campaign, it's not that bad. If it happens every scenario, it's really bad because then you like fall behind. But if it happens once or twice, it's okay. If like Dark Pact goes off once or twice, very, very, very bad.
Yeah.
Notably,
also like later in the campaign, you probably care about this less because you probably got your important upgrades.
Yeah, last scenario you don't care about this at all. Second to last one, you probably barely care. I would maybe put this as like low A or high B, maybe. What do you guys think?
It really, really, really depends, but I think this one specifically is probably low A, high B.
I feel like I lean more towards B. Throw it high B for this one.
Sounds good.
Seems fine. Yeah.
All right. So the next one's Cowardice. Similar to has all the same effects as the previous one, except to get rid of this one, you have to spend an action to evade, and you can only use that evade on exhausted, unengaged enemy at your location. If you succeed, discard this card from your hand. This one is worse because than the other two, I think, because you can't just do like a basic evade action. You have to do the action on the card, so you can't use other evade cards to help you with it.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
which I mean, the reason they have you do that is because otherwise you can't evade an enemy that's already exhausted, right?
Right.
Yeah, I assume that's why. I feel like they could have, put text on it to maybe allow that or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But maybe that would have made it so evade too strong somehow or something. But unlike the other two, yeah, it's a lot harder to. You guys just have to be able to do evade with your agility, which some people can do, but a good amount of characters struggle with that. So
Larry,
I would put this one as like a bad B.
Yeah,
I would say high C, honestly. Like,
it's just the worst it can do to you is like, how much XP are you going to lose over the course of the campaign because of this? Like 4, 6? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
I don't. What do you think, Ben? I don't hate putting it at high C.
Yeah, the thing with this one also, it is a hidden card, so technically you can't explain to your friends that you really want to double evade an enemy or have them evade something that you could easily kill or something.
With this one, they will figure it out very quickly because you're doing like an insane person usually when you have this.
Well, and that can be kind of fun to try to play around that.
That's pretty thematic for sure. Yeah,
it is for an annoying weakness. It's like a fun annoying weakness.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll throw it near the top of C. I don't know. I think it's maybe
Grandpa Larry, why are you getting suggestions?
I don't know. I'll throw it top.
That's fine. Whatever.
All right, and then the last one is Curiosity. This one, if after you successfully investigate a location with no clues on it, discard this card from your hand. That's
like this
easy.
Is the best of them.
Yeah, even if you're bad at investigating, you go to one that has a low shroud and commit something.
Like I guess compared to the fighting one, if you're a fighter, you can do it usually without spending any action that you wouldn't normally spend. This one, like you usually have to spend an action that you wouldn't normally spend, but I still would rather have this.
Yeah, probably better than the general like 2 action kind of generally sort of what a weakness kind of costs like to get rid of, like hypochondria and all that kind of stuff. Like if you're just spending 1 action and a card to like commit to it to deal with this, even as somebody like Roland or Mark or something like that, it's like fine. You know,
I think it's funny if these 3 are each in separate tiers, even though they're like basically the same card.
Yeah, I was gonna throw in like mid low A.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. All right. Last weakness as of recording this podcast is your worst nightmare. Multiplayer only. 2/3/2 enemy hunter. Prey bear only. The bearer of your worst nightmare cannot attack, damage, or defeat it. Does 2 sanity damage. This is your worst nightmare for anyone that can't like is the enemy fighter and needs like the seeker or something to try to be able to kill this somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like it kind of reminds me of Thing That Follows, but I think it depends on the group, but often this is worse.
Well,
right?
it reminds me more of kleptomania in that your allies have to deal with it basically, or let you like die slowly.
Didn't you get this in the Circle and Done, Ben? And then it just like spawned at your location while we were all separated immediately.
That was our friend Colin.
Okay,
as Larry Anderson, who was the one of
could not evade it at all. Yeah, it's a 2 evade, so most people can evade it, but not Larry Anderson.
Because it is like evading is usually the correct way to deal with this, right? Because you are allowed to evade it, and it's easy to evade.
See, you can evade it, and then somebody else can deal with it. I mean, it's a hunter, so like, but hopefully by the time you've evaded it and gone away, someone can go kill it for you or something. But
for sure, yeah.
I think it really sucks if you're the fighter in the group, this sucks. If you're the seeker in the group, you're probably going to draw this 4 times, and it also sucks.
Yeah. I was about to say, like, this whole cycle, this came out in Dreamlands, is that right? This came out with Kleptomania, Self-Centered, and Narcolepsy. These ones are, like, my favorite weaknesses by far.
They
just because of how dynamic they are, like, and the situations that they create is just so fantastic. And Your Worst Nightmares definitely also falls into one of them, but probably not quite as fun as Narcolepsy or Kleptomania. And by fun, I mean hilarious.
Plus, solo players don't get to do it. Suck at solo players.
No, but it depends. But I maybe like say lows B.
Yeah, I was leaning B
High C,
or
maybe?
B or C.
I definitely
Yeah,
want
it's
this more
it's
than.
somewhere in there.
Yeah, I definitely want this more
Compared to
than
like
Thing That
Mob
Follows.
Enforcer or Thing That Follows, is it more or less scary?
Yeah.
I think it is
Um,
worse than those. I don't know. It really depends. This one's
the 2
hard.
horror is kind of big, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna
This
throw.
is the only one that does 2 of an attribute or a helper
I
sanity.
let's just compare it directly to Thing That Follows. Like if it's better than that, it belongs in B, and if it's worse than it belongs in C. And I feel like
I kind of think it's. I mean, it's definitely very dependent. I feel like
Yeah.
it's inherently worse. I mean, Thing That Follows goes back in your deck every time you kill it, which is
That's.
bad.
I think
That
that's
is
probably
also
more annoying
yeah.
than.
This is fun.
Yeah.
Thing That Follows is very annoying. So let's put this as like the worst B, and that
Yeah.
Thing That Follows is like the best C.
I could be happy with that. All right.
There it is.
Yeah. So that's it. That's all the weaknesses.
Came out
Good way to,
almost like we almost have perfectly roughly even distribution between A, B, and C. Like C has a couple less.
It's
and
kind
then
of cool, right?
yeah, and then S and F each have 2. That I kind of thought we'd end up with more in S or F than this, but this seems reasonable.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're listening to this, we'll post it up online on our blog and socials probably. But I don't want to read the whole thing. But yeah, we just have Indebted and what's this guy called? The Echo, or I forget his name. I can't read it
Silver Twilight
it's
Echo?
tiny. This guy.
Harrison is
Oh,
asking,
Cursed Follower.
Harrison's asking, are you going to move Klepto?
What?
Move Klepto.
I like
Move
I like the
Klepto.
symmetry of having 2 things in S and 2 things in F, but
I know,
I
it's so
wouldn't
symmetry.
I wouldn't hate it
It's
if
like perfect symmetry.
Nah,
there's nothing else.
Yeah.
There's nothing else
only-
that we want to go down to F, right?
I think the only one that I want to move is Reckless because I have personal experience with it and it's so easy to deal with. I'd want to move it up to A, but for the purposes of keeping these tier lists exactly like structured and like
If you want to move Klepto to S and Reckless to A, I would kind of be fine with it because then we have 3 things in S but 2 in F and 1 in the shit tier, so it's sort of like close.
Okay.
If Jane wants to do that, I'm okay with it if Ben's okay with it.
Yeah, sure. It's fine.
yeah.
It's hard to compare these all directly. You know, it's all just kind of
Justice for Klepto.
What else was I moving?
Jane wanted Reckless. Put Reckless as like the worst A.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say so.
All right.
And then we should quickly read these for the benefit of people listening in audio mode. We don't have to read all of them. Just like briefly read what's in each tier.
All right, fine. All right. Unfortunately, the text is very small on this tier maker because I just copied the cards on. But S, we got Indebted, Accursed Follower, Kleptomania. A, we have Narcolepsy, Dread Curse, Self-Destructive, Hypochondria, Nihilism. Can't remember how it's spelled. The Stellar Weakness. Unspeakable Curiosity, Self-Setter, Day of Reckoning, Haunted, and Reckless. B, we got 13th Vision, Unspeakable Oath, Bloodthirst, Mob Enforcer, Psychosis, Chronophobia, Dark Pact, Eternal Injury, Stubborn Detective. I think I switched those. Oh, whatever. Paranoia and Your Worst Nightmare. C, Thing That Follows, Unspeakable Oath, Cowardice, Through the Gates, Obsessive, Drawing the Sign, Amnesia, The Tower, Dendrophobia, Silver Twilight Acolyte. F tier, we have Offer You Can't Refuse and Overzealous, and then we have the shit tier for Doomed. So
yes,
I think it's interesting that if you look at how these are distributed, the core set weaknesses are mostly like they're kind of centered around C. They're mostly like B, C, and F, and the newer ones tend to be higher. And that kind of reflects what we usually think is that the core set, both the basic weaknesses and the investigator weaknesses, were very punishing. Yeah. And they've tended to make more interesting weaknesses and ones that you can sort of play around in a fun way since then.
Yeah, I mean, they were very straightforward. It's like a double action, get rid of it for the most part. Very clear cut on how they affect you, while newer weaknesses, more dynamic. So, which is fun.
Yeah.
I generally like the newer weaknesses for that reason. So.
Yeah, they definitely knocked it out of the park, like I was saying earlier with the Dreamlands ones. Those are like the perfect kind of weaknesses, and I'd be really excited to see more like that.
We should also reiterate too that like everything that we do when we talk about cards and stuff, this is based on like multiplayer play basically. So some of these might be ranked differently if we were doing solo or even 2-player, but I feel pretty good about how we rank them for like 3 and 4-player games.
Yeah, and I think kind of as a general rule of thumb, just to kind of like close the tier list out, you shouldn't generally be terrified of drawing your weakness, right? Like, just kind of doing this because there is kind of like a realm of thought where it's like I don't want to draw cards because I'll draw my weakness, but really like hopefully sorting it out like this gives you a better idea of like the degree of that you should feel. Like if you have Doomed in your deck, then absolutely feel like that and maybe tear that card up and throw it in your toilet. But everything else, it's like, come on, you have some play, right? It kind of makes your deck a little bit more dynamic and more fun. But yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and it definitely, these tiers are kind of an average across all the different decks and groups that you could have that might have them. Certainly for individual investigators, it might be very different, but what Dane said is right. You have to draw cards just to be able to do stuff. So usually you don't want to like stop drawing cards to avoid a weakness, although there are a few cases where maybe you do.
Yeah. So is everybody on board with this mutual hate hate of Doomed? And like while we're closing up, did you like think about briefly tearing up your copy of Doomed the first time you saw it? Let us know. Come hang out with us on our Discord. Reach out to us on Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, or email us at comments@mur.fm. If you really love our show and you want to get more involved, join us on patreon.com/Miskatonic University Radio to get access to exclusive Discord channels and other fun stuff. Or just leave us a nice review on your favorite podcasting network. Thanks, everybody, for being here with us. It was a lot of fun. Be safe, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye, everybody.
All right, bye.